Hey folks, Phil from the future here. If you want to see this deck pop off, I recommend rounds 4 and 5. Enjoy the show. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll look at them a little bit later on. Today we're going to be playing with John's Rug Nic Fit deck. So in case you're not familiar with that name, because it certainly is not self-explanatory, Nic Fit refers to a legacy ramp deck where you try to sacrifice Veteran Explorer, often to something like Cabal Therapy, Phyrexian Tower, or Greater Gargadon, in order to ramp out a bunch of basic lands. And the general idea is you're playing a lot of things that are relatively mana intensive and high off on the curve, so you can use the basic lands better than your opponent can, and sometimes honestly legacy decks just don't have 2 basic lands, or maybe even any basic lands, and sometimes that ramp is entirely one-sided. This is not a traditional version of Nic Fit. This is very experimental. It in many ways is going to look kind of like a 4-color control deck, with a lot of the staples like Expressive Iteration, Uro, and Minsc and Boo here serving as ways to really kind of take over the game as the game goes long. Minsc and Boo, notably, is a way to sacrifice a creature as well. So, most of the time you're probably not going to want to sacrifice your Veteran Explorer to Minsc and Boo. Like, by the time you get to Minsc and Boo, like, you're probably ready to murder people with hamsters. You might not need more mana, but there are situations where that's not true. Alright, one of the other things that I want to talk about this deck list is this deck's combo finish, and that is with Titania, Protector of Argoth. So, when this enters the battlefield, you get to return a land from your graveyard to play, and whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you make a 5/3 elemental token. The idea here is that you can sacrifice all of your lands with Greater Gargadon to turn every land you have into a 5/3 elemental, which is a pretty good way to go and finish the game. Now, that said, I do have some deck building concerns here. I basically think we're never going to beat combo. I tuned this deck list up and I just kind of honestly gave up on most of the combo matchups. We're very much looking to play against fair decks here. And if you just kind of look at the main deck, like we've got a couple of endurances that can maybe help us in the graveyard matchups. We've got 2 Force of Wills, but like we're not a full-on control deck. We're just not going to win games versus combo most of the time. And so in the sideboard, I've opted to respect the initiative deck, which, you know, spoilers, is all over Legacy right now. And I want to make sure that I'm not just going to be cold to a White Plume adventurer or a seasoned dungeoneer that's played out early. I want to make sure that I can take the initiative back and maybe hold it in some cases. So while a lot of these slots normally would have gone to things like maybe, you know, your Force of Wills, your Surgical Extractions, your Fluster Storms, I'm going to opt to respect the initiative deck a little bit more than that. This deck is trying to do a lot. Like, this is trying to be an Expressive Iteration deck that also has high-costed things, and those aren't necessarily a combo. This is a deck that has Endurances, Force of Wills, and Furies, all of which require different different colored cards in my hand. So, like, there's definitely some tension in the deck building here, and I smoothed out some stuff from the initial list, which was well over 60 cards. We'll kind of see how this plays out. I'm a little worried that it's going to feel a little bit clunky, but I want to like respect the donor's vision of what this should look like rather than just building my own rug version of this deck, which would probably just end up pretty close to Applejacks, which is the name of like the Titania Orcish Lumberjack ramp deck that also plays Veteran Explorer and Greater Gargadon. But let's see how this goes. Oh, and I suppose this is probably going to be the first deck of the new year, so Happy New Year to everyone who is celebrating that, and to everyone else. I hope 2023 goes well for you. Please consider throwing me a like before this video begins, and if you're new and you like what you see today, please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. Alright, let's battle. Okay, I think I'll keep this land. I think I'll keep this hand. It's not necessarily perfect. Like, we're not going to be able to start on all basics this game. This probably has to get a Taiga to smooth things out. And opponent's a fan of the content. I'm pretty unlikely to want to brainstorm on turn 1. I think I'm more likely to want to lightning bolt my opponent, or not my opponent, one of my opponent's creatures on turn 1. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lead on this instead. All right. So I think I am fine with a main phase brainstorm here. Oh, nice. I was actively looking for Veteran Explorer. One of these lightning bolts probably goes back. I think the green sun goes back as well. Let's go ahead and fetch. Hope not to get stifled. Rug Delver is a thing that is, like, around these days. Let's play Taiga into Veteran Explorer. Nice. So on my turn, I can consider lightning bolting my own Veteran Explorer to play out a Minsc and Boo. Savannah, oh fuck, it's the fucking rhinos! It's fucking rhinos! Alright, yeah, so this is the Leyline Binding, like, Shardless Agent, Violent Outburst, Rhino Cascade deck. So, how do I want to play this out? I can use Endurance and Veteran Explorer. Maybe my plan is put... No, the counters can only go on creatures with Trample or Haste. I can Lightning Bolt my own creature here. Go up to 5 total mana. Play a Titania and start making elementals. That's probably not bad. And we can kind of go from there. Oh, that's rough. Force of Negation is pretty brutal. I think I'm chump blocking with Veteran Explorer on my turn, and then either do Titania or Minsc and Boo nonsense. I can soak up 2 damage if I block Shardless Agent. Oh, am I just going to eat a Leyline Binding here? What are we doing? Oh. Oops, more rhinos. I think at this point I'm just overwhelmed. Like, I take 8 this turn, there's 16 power on board. I can get some basic lands. Pick up a forest and a mountain. And go ahead and play an Endurance. Just get another body into play. I don't think I nuke either graveyard here. I don't want to put more crashing footfalls back into my opponent's deck. That's actually not bad, right? Oh, the rhinos trample. Okay. Rhinos trample. I'm gonna assume that I have another red source in the deck. I'm not gonna check the deck list. Alright. We'll return a Wooded Foothills to play. These are 5/3s. I'm effectively at 7 life. Might be alive. Yeah, I think I'm alive. I'm not gonna claim that I'm in good shape, but I think I'm alive. There's someone with a weed whacker outside, so apologies if any of that ends up getting into the audio here. It's not showing up on my end right now, but, you know, stuff happens. So we'll get a Valk for one of these, drop for another one, go to some blocks. This trades with 1. This trades with 1. I think I have to trade my Titania with 1. No, Titania can go here. Or sorry, there's 2 rhinos right there. So this plus Lightning Bolt can trade with 1. This is 6 damage as of right now. I think I just need to let the Titania go, though. So looking at Trample is 1, 2, 3, 4 total damage. And I will clear all of the rhinos, assuming Lightning Bolt resolves, and then try to Minsc and Boo my way to victory. I think that is acceptable. Alright, I'm at 2. Let's Lightning Bolt and finish off that rhino. This Shardless Agent is a lethal threat. I can start with Expressive Iteration and play Minsc and Boo afterwards. Ice Fang, or maybe Expressive Iteration goes to hand. I'll just play Ice Fang Coatl. I'll turn to bottom. Ice Fang Coatl to exile. I'll tap this one. Play the Ice Fang Coatl. Oh, another land drop is perfect here. That's kind of what I was hoping for in keeping the Ice Fang. Yes, I will use that ability. Go ahead and plus on the Boo. I think I hold back both of these so that I don't lose to Leyline Binding. Okay. We're trying to swing this game. We have survived 2 sets of rhinos. Okay, there's the Leyline Binding that I played around. Okay. Like, it ate my Planeswalker, but I have an Expressive Iteration in hand. And another Icefang Coatl, actually. Let's start with the Expressive Iteration, because I have some stupid expensive stuff that I can hit. Go Icefang to hand. Stalling turn to bottom. Power to exile. I'll play this as my land drop. And let's start doing this old thing here. Oh, yeah. It's all coming together now. This is disgusting. I will not use that ability. Go ahead and plus on my Boo here. And I will just attack in with one creature. I'm not willing to attack in with multiple. I always want 2 blockers right now. And then, in theory, next turn we've got lethal. Oh, no. No. That has trample. Or the sacrifice works too. Fuck, I fought so hard. I fought so hard. Ugh. I'm not upset. That was a great game of Magic. But damn it, I thought I had that one. I thought we had weathered the storm. Okay, what am I doing with my life? One of the big things here is, like, do I want Force of Will? There's this weird tension of wanting things to stop the combo elements early, but also needing to be able to stop things like Minsc and Boo and the mid-rangey stuff later on. So, like, Carpet of Flowers, for example, is great in the end game and terrible in the early game. I think I'm probably playing Forces. I think I still do this. Their mana base is a little weird. I definitely want the Fury, because this can go at, like, this can kill a Rhino or a Minsc and Boo. And both of those things are valuable. I've got Uros to worry about, so, like, Endurance is a thing too. This is kind of a frustrating deck to sideboard against. My deck's a little janky to start with. The Fable of the Mirror Breaker probably is not necessary. Icefang Coatls aren't necessarily peak here. They technically kill a Rhino, but I take a Lightning Bolt worth of damage in the process. Whereas something like Endurance doesn't kill a Rhino, but is great against Uro. I don't know, folks. Maybe Lightning Bolt's not great. It's a way to kill my Veteran Explorers, but doesn't trade with the Rhinos. Can do nice things versus Minsc and Boo, though. I don't know. Force of Will and Fury are better at getting me through the initial turns. Throw a Carpet of Flowers in here. I can still sacrifice Veteran Explorers to Greater Gargadons, although honestly they're just going to block a lot of the time. And then it's like, do I want these other cards? Like, how much do I want to hedge versus Uro specifically? These are bad versus Rhinos. Maybe go down a Gargadon for another Carpet? Or another Carpet. There we go. This hand gets to Force of Will, the first Rhino producing card, and can play a Greater Gargadon. I think this is a keep. I would say it is an unexciting keep. But if I find a Veteran Explorer in particular, I think this hand is going to end up being fine. Alright, my opponent has mulliganed once. I believe I'm actually going to fetch a Volcanic Island here. I want to suspend Greater Gargadon, but I also want to be able to Brainstorm and Shuffle next turn, if that's a thing that I need to do. And Taiga won't let me Brainstorm and Shuffle. I can't really Brainstorm unless I draw a blue card, though. Pretty likely to draw a blue card. It's just, like, so good if I hit Veteran Explorer. Maybe I need to kind of risk it here. I hit no blue card, this is very awkward. Or if my opponent, like, double Spirit Guides and Violent Outbursts in response, this is awkward. Okay, that's about the Nightmare scenario. At this point, Tower goes back. Just give up on Force of Will since I missed the blue card. My plan is Titania, sack 5 lands, make 5 elementals. That's how I win the game. Maybe I need to defend that with Force of Will. Throw back Tower and Fury with the intention of shuffling pretty much no matter what. My Brainstorm may have been a little bit too greedy. Yeah. That's, I guess, a Trop here. And your Rhinos happen. I now don't have Force of Will. I can still just draw a Veteran Explorer and go wild. That is another land, unfortunately. Alright, I need a live draw next turn, or I'm just dead for opting to Brainstorm. Alright, I'll take 10. Down to 8. No, I just whiffed. Alright, yeah. So, like, the 3 cards I looked at for Brainstorm, and then the 2 cards I got afterwards, just, like, we're all dead. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a deck building website for Magic the Gathering with a ton of functionality. And today I want to show you the tags. So a lot of times when you look at a deck list for, say, a commander deck list, you have some very large categories, but you might have some personal ways that you go and view these categories, like combo pieces, fast mana, humans, interaction, and you can actually sort these deck lists in a lot of ways. So consider checking out Moxfield if this appeals to you. Okay, I've kept my opening hand. My opponent's mulliganed once. We'll kind of see what we're up against here. Be a control deck, could be a Rug Delver deck. My gameplay is going to start off with Veteran Explorer, kind of regardless of what my opponent is doing here. Alright. Get in there, little buddy. I do need a way to sacrifice it, but I've got a couple of pretty good ramp targets once I do get there. Okay. And we're dead. Alright, Ancient Tomb. This is potentially a blue-green show and tell deck. Alright. It is class time. Titania is going in here, I think. Wonder if I can race this Grizzlebrand straight up. What's my dream? My dream is Brainstorm into, like, Greater Gargadon or Phyrexian Tower, maybe? I think that means I Brainstorm prior to making a land drop. Do I have a Dryad Arbor? Do not have a Dryad Arbor. I don't really have time for Expressive Iteration right now. That can go back, and one non-fetch land can go back, I guess. Go ahead and clear the top of the library here. Need to pick up a green source, maybe a green-red, maybe a Taiga here. I will play out a new Veteran Explorer. What I've got 10, 11, 12 damage on the backswing. Yeah, that Grizzlebrand might be on the defensive here. I don't think I attack with a Veteran Explorer into a Grizzlebrand right now. And we're going to see my opponent draw at least 7 cards. It is just the 7. Now, another show and tell into like an Emrakul probably is pretty bad for me. My opponent's like innate attack isn't exactly that good. Grizzlebrand's holding back a lot of damage right now. Ooh, it is 3-color show and tell. That means sneak attack is on the table. Fuck. Uh-huh. Alright. If this is Emrakul, I'm donezo. I don't think I'm dead. I haven't done the math yet. But I get to sacrifice a Veteran Explorer, can discard the Uro. I pick up a blue and a green land here. Island. Forest. Now this is the problem. They've gotten another red mana with this. If they have another Archon, not great for me. These come in, I believe with this trigger on the stack before they draw another card, I'm supposed to flash in this Icefang Coatl. So the issue with... Ah, fuck, they had it. No! I was doing things! I get to pick up another land here. Or actually, I'm just taking 13 damage, aren't I? 6, 12, 13. I am exactly dead. Oh, that's so unfortunate. We were so close to breaking through. Alright. So again, I am not as heavy on lots for this matchup as I would like to be, because I've opted to play, like, to fight against fair stuff, and we're on combo deck number 2 in a row. So getting super punished for that decision. Fury's not particularly good here. Endurance is not particularly good here. Lightning Bolt is not great here either. It's a way to kill my own Veteran Explorer, so like that's a thing. What does it look like if I board those out? How many slots is that? That's 7? Take one more look over this. A lot of the other stuff that's here is reasonable. I don't know that I really want anything else more. I could play this as a 3-power attacker on turn 2, but I don't know that I'm actually super interested in doing that. Okay, I have kept this opening hand here. I believe that I am just going to go ahead and use my mana on turn 1 to suspend this Greater Gargadon. There's some absolute nut draws where my opponent has Ancient Tomb plus Lotus Petal plus Show and Tell plus Creature, where I get punished for not holding Brainstorm up on turn 1, but I only have 4 hits for a Brainstorm on turn 1, so I think I'd rather just kind of hold off for a turn and not play around the absolute nut draw. Alright. Gargadon gets going. There's a Red Elemental Blast. So at this point, I think I just kind of hold up Brainstorm and don't drop Red Elemental Blast pretty much ever. I can Green Sun for a Veteran Explorer at my convenience. Are we going now? Uh-huh. Please cast Show and Tell. Because I'm cold to Sneak Attack as of right now. Show and Tell or Sneak Attack? Show and Tell? Show and Tell. Do I Brainstorm first? I don't think so. I think I play around Daze by casting Red Elemental Blast first. They've got backup. Yup. The Fluster counters my Red Elemental Blast, and now I have to Brainstorm for a different answer to this. A Trop here for some variety. Unfortunately, if my opponent does have a Daze here, they can get this Brainstorm or a potential Force of Will that I could play. Alright, we have Whiffed. My Icefang Coatl is not going to have Death Touch anytime soon. Put 2 random-ish cards back. Well, actually, I should keep one kind of bad card in hand for in case this is an Archon, I suppose. Put the Green Sun too deep. Show and Tell resolves. I'm going to put in this Uro. That allows me to make another land drop here. And then I gotta figure out what I'm doing with my life. I think I'm in enough danger that I just, like, cast this Brainstorm here for mana efficiency reasons. This is not the land drop that I wanted. I think the plan becomes try to kill this with Icefang Coatls after doing Veteran Explorer nonsense. I want to do that the other way. Redraw the Minsc and Boo. Pick down Gargadon. Go 2 mana for a Green Sun for 1. There's the expected draw 7. And the expected counterspell, unfortunately. My opponent has untapped with a Grizzlebrand. So life's pretty bad. See if I am explicitly dead this turn. There's a carpet. It's happening. I am on a 2-turn clock. My opponent has all the cards in the world. A healthy life total. And more mana than they can shake a stick at. Oh, got a Sneak Attack. Yeah, no, that's fine. Fine. Gargadon. I guess I do this Icefang Coatl. Doesn't have Death Touch yet. Oh, little misplay on my end that I didn't think of. When I played Uro, I could have gotten one more counter off of Greater Gargadon by sacrificing Uro while it was on the battlefield. Little things that I need to tighten up for future rounds. But I think I'm very dead for this one. Alright, there's a Sneak Attack. And there's a Concession. GG's. Okay, I have a Brainstorm to try to fix this hand. But this hand is, like, absolutely a clunker right now. Like, I have 4 cards that I'm not really able to cast. I have no interaction for my opponent. So, like, I'm trying to use this Brainstorm to find both lands and interaction. Maybe I still keep it. Brainstorm's really good. Okay, we're fucked. But that's a Chalice of the Void, like, 100%. Okay. Life's bad. I needed that Brainstorm to help me find lands. The good news is I have a lot of castable cards in my hand. The bad news is, like, my opponent could follow this up with, like, a Blood Moon, and I'm stone cold dead on the spot. Oh, is this an alternative show and tell build? Is my current guess. This doesn't see a lot of play. When it does, it's usually in show and tell. Well, that's a veteran explorer that I can't get into play, unfortunately. Let's fetch and just try to make our next land drop here. And Force of Will is okay. Those are cards. I think I'll take the. No, I want the fetch land. But a fetch land into hand, and then these other two don't matter. Guess I'll send the fetchable card back into my deck and just exile the other one. So a lot of this game is just going to depend on whether or not my opponent can go for it quickly. Because if they can, it will beat me. They trop. I think I play the fetch land immediately, though. Gotta keep growing the graveyard. I've got green. As long as this is a blue fetchable, I have all my colors. Alternatively, it can be Taiga. Green, blue. Yeah, that still works. And let's draw another card, put another thing into play. Put a trop into play. Now, sacrifice an Uro to the Greater Gargadon. 1, 2, 3. I probably want to get this countered for Uro escape reasons. There's 4 cards in graveyard. And probably brainstorm into a fetch land to play. That's spicy. So I can play Uro this turn. I think Titania is just better though. Like I just jam Titania this turn and then try to jam Titania next turn as well if she doesn't resolve this turn. Ho 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 ho. My opponent's dead next turn. I get to sacrifice all my lands. Actually now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna deal a lot of damage to my opponent. Yeah, I'm not expecting a sweeper from my opponent, so here we go. 1, killed to that. 2, 3, 4, 5. Load of mana in case there's a daze. 6. Cast a Greater Gargadon. It does have haste. Hit my opponent for 9. They are at 9. I probably beat a show and tell for a creature at this point. Yeah. We did it. We did the thing. So my opponent is on a strange show and tell deck. They might have some like leveler style nonsense where they remove a bunch of cards from their library, so that Shelldock Isle is live. My forces are good. Meltdown is probably good. I don't think I want to oof. Pyroblasts are still probably reasonable with what I'm expecting here. Unsure on Carpet because my opponent has a bunch of things like Soul Lands that aren't going to help fuel it. Given that I'm facing down Chalice, I don't think I'm super inclined to board in more 1-drops. I in fact want to board out 1-drops if possible. Fury is probably not particularly good, although my opponent might have some Planeswalkers. How many cards is this? I will need to cut 3 cards. Furies feel expendable there. An Endurance after that. This is probably one of those times where I can get a threat into play and kill my opponent. It has a Force and a Pyroblast, but is a 1-lander with no cantrip. I don't think I can do that. This is a pretty mediocre looking hand that recovers okay as long as my opponent doesn't have a Chalice. In respect of turn 1 Chalice, I'm going to throw back one of the Brainstorms though. I definitely will kind of be counting on my opponent not doing a thing as quickly as possible. Ooh, that's not bad. I think I'm going to pick up a Trop here and play out a Veteran Explorer. This will allow me to Brainstorm and fetch away some bad cards next turn. I'm not leaving up Brainstorm this turn. Like, if my opponent has a kill ASAP, I'm just going to kind of accept that I die, but I think I've got to kind of get some stuff going here. Let's Brainstorm prior to the land drop here, as some things like Phyrexian Tower may vastly change how I want to play out this turn. Oh no. Alright, let's put some big fat things on top of library here. And lay out a new Veteran Explorer. This is kind of a good news, bad news situation where I have a counterspell, so I'm not just soft to whatever happens on the other side of the battlefield, but I have no ability to sacrifice these Veteran Explorers and ramp into my more reasonable threats. Alright. Mana's fine. Alice is fine. I've got one counterspell right now. I can't get distracted by things that don't matter. And I technically have a win condition in play, right? Let's try to get that Titania off the top of my library. Icefang Coatl into hand because it redraws probably. Don't need Titania. Misty goes to exile. I'll play that as my land for turn. Ration for 2. On it goes to 17. There's a Cavernous Souls. So that's for Thassa's Oracle. Oh, I don't think I explicitly said this yet, but it's looking more and more like my opponent is a Thassa's Oracle combo deck rather than a Show and Tell deck with some spice, like I was immediately expecting. So I need to get rid of that. I know my opponent has a Thassa's Oracle in hand, and there's potentially another one under Shelldock. So this is a no-go for me. I think I keep the Expressive Iteration in hand. Let's pitch Icefang Coatl then. Very nice. And the last card that I cast was Expressive Iteration. I don't need an immediate shuffle here. Ooh. That is some spice. So that can allow me to potentially disrupt a Thassa's Oracle kill. I think that means I just hold up my Endurance mana for now. Let's just attack for 2. I think that changes maybe if I have another blue card in hand. This is a Thought Lash. So exiling the top card of their library prevents the next 1 damage that would be dealt to them. That's happening. And I'm going to have to see if I can disrupt that. A Phyrexian Tower. That means that I have 5 total mana to work with. I can go ahead and attack and then cast an Expressive Iteration. Attempting to put some blue cards into my hand. The Thought Lash is just really good right now. I don't think I want to be like Minsc and Booing. I just have to leave this. I guess I could leave Pitchcast Endurance up and get a Minsc and Boo in play. Maybe that's just better. Yeah, maybe that's just better. All right. Sacrifice a Veteran Explorer. I will use this ability. Pick up a Forest and a Mountain to just immediately cast Minsc and Boo with that mana. Cast my good old hamster friend. Yes. Go ahead and plus on my Boo. I've still got Hardcast Endurance up. I don't think I'll Expressive Iteration this turn after all. Alright. My opponent has gone ahead and exiled 5 cards to prevent this combat damage that I'm about to do, which is reasonable. My opponent has to exile 1 card for Thought Lash. Alright, there's Wizard Cycling for another Thassa's Oracle. Yep. So that enters play. My opponent activates Thought Lash, exiling their entire library. Or sorry, my opponent has kept 4 cards in their library. Alright. Oh, this Endurance isn't actually going to break up the Thought Lash, is it? Because I put those in, and then my opponent just exiles them. Fuck, this doesn't actually break it up. That doesn't work. Against Thought Lash specifically. I guess I can still give my opponent a chance to do something stupid. But that Thought Lash doesn't get me to where I need to be. Because they just do this. Thought Lash OP. And I lose to the Thassa's Oracle trigger. But now that I'm expecting my opponent is on Thassa's Oracle rather than a spicy Show and Tell build, I want more of these Endurances in, but they're not necessarily going to do things that I need them to do all the time. My sideboarding is probably not going to change all that much at the end of the day. They'll probably have to keep those meltdowns for chalices because I don't have like a green sunnable creature that can deal with that sort of stuff. I get these in here. I can cut Fable. Ramping my opponent with Veteran Explorer is super awkward here. Like, because they do have these expensive things like what's the stupid card that just killed me? Like Thought Lash. Maybe I cut these. I keep the Gargadons for Titania. Play Carpet instead. I don't know. I really need that bonus mana past my big dumb things like Titania and Minsc and Boo. It just like makes my opponent's cards significantly better though. Maybe I do like this and this. Maybe I do play Unchained Berserker as 3/1 attackers. Just straight up trying to kill my opponent faster. And once I have a reasonable threat down, I just use things like Expressive Iteration to try and find Force of Will and Pyroblasts. Alright, I think that's my plan. Again, we don't have the cards like Flusterstorm and such that we really want to be playing in this matchup because I'm gearing for these fair decks. Nope. Okay, this is this is how we lose this round. That's okay. Well, I'm keeping this. Mountain goes back, and probably Snow-Covered Island goes back. I unfortunately can't really use this Expressive Iteration because it needs to be my Force of Will fodder for right now. Well, maybe I can use the Expressive Iteration. Unchained Berserker is fucking here, folks. The hero of our times. Ready to attack for 3 damage. Let's fucking go. Now, relevantly, a Boseiju activation does cost 2 life. Am I going to EI right now, dropping Force of Will? With Boseiju in play, I think the answer is yes. See what we get out of this. We'll put another Unchained Berserker into my hand. But an EI on bottom, I'd rather redraw that than redraw a Green Sun. Exile Green Sun. Play Island. I left up the possibility of playing a land drop off of EI. I didn't play towards drawing one of the 2 Green Suns. Alright, that has found a Thassa's Oracle. I think if I straight up think that if I draw a blue card, I might be able to buy the necessary time to let these 2 Unchained Berserkers get there. There's an uncounterable spell. Okay, yep. 49 cards in exile. Uh-huh. Alright. Need a blue card. Need a blue card right the fuck now. Blue card! Let's go! I can at least attempt. Crash in with Berserker for 3. Opponent's at 10. Play an Unchained Berserker. I have Force of Will available with mana to play for a Spell Pierce type card. Note that Boseiju does not make a Thassa's Oracle uncounterable. Damn it. I'm gonna Force of Will that out of spite. Force of Will. Thank you, opponent. Like, I really appreciate you you playing along there. GG's. Alright. We've got a Veteran Explorer Greater Gargadon opening hand here. I can lead on the Gargadon and then play Veteran Explorer and immediately sacrifice it on turn 2. This hand's pretty strong. Let's see if we're playing against combo, and I'll cry myself to sleep. That's a lie. I won't cry myself to sleep. It's 10:30 a.m. Just a regular old cry. Opponent has mulligan to 5. That usually means combo. Oh, we're playing against a red prison deck list. That's fine. Yeah, this is a-okay with me. A second Veteran Explorer? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. If my opponent plays a Chalice on turn 2, I guess I actually want to play Veteran Explorer on turn 1 rather than suspend Gargadon. Okay. Ooh. So my opponent didn't make a turn 1 or turn 2 play here. This might not actually be like a Moon Stompy deck list. This could be a mono red sneak attack list. So like that's a thing. How much mana do I actually have this turn? So if I use 1 to suspend Greater Gargadon, I have 1 land drop plus 2 lands that I get. So I have 3 more mana. I have 4 more mana by playing another Veteran Explorer. Is my Collector Oof in my sideboard or my main deck? My sideboard. Regardless, I think my turn just starts off with a regular ol' attack. Poke my opponent to 19. Suspend Greater Gargadon. Junk Veteran Explorer. Like a forest, an island with this first one. Oh, yeah, we expect our opponent to have mountains. Then I will play another Veteran Explorer. I'll go ahead and still just sack that immediately. Yes, we'll grab a island and a mountain with that one. I'll go ahead and cast this EI. I'm mostly looking to put a Force of Will into my hand with this, if I'm being honest. I want to tap and untap the mountain there. Alright, well, you know, we will put a fetch land into my hand, put a fetchable in play, exile that Scalding Tarn, play that Scalding Tarn. Brainstorm, I guess, can wait. We have the possibility of brainstorming into Force of Will to stop whatever. Oh. Well, I accept that piece. Alright, and we're chilling. So let's brainstorm. Fury and Expressive Iteration. Not the biggest fan of those things. Let's throw back the 2 fetchable cards. Go ahead and fetch here. Got basics covered. Got red covered. I've got green covered. I don't need to think about this too awful much. And the Oofnat being main deck here is pretty brutal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for 6 total mana, I can get Titania and just present lethal for next turn. I'm not sure that that's better than just casting Expressive Iteration, though. Do I have a middling-sized threat here? I have an Uro or an Ice Fang. I'm just going to cast an EI. I don't know. I can't get Force of Will and blue card off EI easily. I still probably need to play towards doing something that at least disrupts my opponent. Let's cast another EI this turn. Go like Veteran Explorer to hand, Foothills to bottom, EI to exile, cast a new EI. Fury to hand, I guess. Gargadon to bottom. Ice Fang to exile. Play Ice Fang. There's another Green Sun. I have another Trop in deck. I can go ahead and fetch that Trop. Play out a new Veteran Explorer. I guess this is still just lethal next turn, right? So I sack a Veteran Explorer. Gets me green, and now cast another Green Sun for a Veteran Explorer to sacrifice 6 things. Probably just leave the things that can attack in play. So I sacrificed most of my lands. On thinking about it more, I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice the other Veteran Explorer here. I'm out of basics. This allows me to hard cast a Fury next turn, if that's a thing that I need to do for some reason to get a blocker out of the way. This is the deck, like, doing the thing and popping off, though, so, like, that is nice. So I've got theoretical lethal next turn. I can hard cast a Fury, potentially pitch cast a second one if things get real wild. But I am dead to Painter's Servant. I didn't manage to Expressive Iteration my way into, like, a Lightning Bolt or something that could otherwise interact with that. I have 15 cards in my graveyard right now. Wild. Alright, my opponent has a Goblin Engineer. That can put the Painter into graveyard. I beat that, though. I just cast a Fury, I get the Goblin Engineer out of the way, and I kill my opponent. A Phyrexian Dragon Engine, which does have Unearth for 5 mana. Okay. So, my opponent can discard their hand to draw 3 cards. Sure, that's fine. There's a Pyroblast. My opponent had plenty of things they could have Pyroblast on my turn. So this means that I don't necessarily get to kill my opponent next turn. Oh, this gets exiled. I get to deal 9 of the 10 damage. Not having an oof in game 1, real rough. I can get an Uro. My life total doesn't really matter. I think I just hardcast a Fury and put my opponent to 1. They drew a Painter, they drew a Painter. Alternatively, I can Green Sun for an Ice Fang to draw a card and pitch cast a Fury. That gives me a look at Lightning Bolt in particular. Force of Will won't do it. Yeah, I'm drawing towards exactly 3 Lightning Bolts. I think it's better to just hardcast a Fury here. So this gets the Engineer out of the way. And here's 9 damage, putting my opponent to 1. Alright, am I dead? Lightning Bolt Fury. That's fine. Every card that you use that is not named Painter's Servant is good for me. Grindstone, target me. You can look at a couple more cards, but I believe that is the thing that my opponent is doing before conceding here. Yep, they have shown themselves the door. Alright. Our deck, like, did the thing, and we were, you know, pseudo-storming off there. Having access to Collector Oof now off my Green Sun package is so incredibly good. I definitely want Endurances, both to clear fair things out of my opponent's graveyard and to potentially save me for a turn from just milling out. Meltdown is fantastic. I probably want more Fury. Force of Will is playable. It was one of the things that I was looking for this game, but it like doesn't line up well against my opponent's blasts. If I want to get real cheeky, I can think about boarding in my own blasts, but I think my overall card quality is high enough that I don't necessarily have to do that. Now, my opponent's pretty good at using their mana, so the whole Veteran Explorer thing is a little dubious. That said, I think I still probably keep it. I think against this like pile of Pyroblasts, I don't want to 2-for-1 myself with Force of Will, and as we saw, when I was digging that game, it was a little hard for me to get a blue card in the first place. I think I'm going to go Forces and Fable out, and then figure out how I get the remaining 2 cuts from there. I don't think Ice Fang Coatl is overly impressive here. If I'm cutting Force of Will, and one of the primary reasons I wanted this was as a pitch card, I think that's reasonable. I'm bringing in Fury and Meltdown as additional cards that kind of replace that, so I think I'm okay with what's going on here. It's possible that, like, with bringing in extra Furies... I think this hand flunks around too much for me to want to keep that. Okay! This is a very awkward keep here. I think I'll just throw back 1 fetch land. I could keep the extra fetch land for Uro purposes. I don't know that that's something that I have to do. That's not what I'm looking for. If my opponent were to randomly Blood Moon me, I would want a blue source in play. I already have the other 2 colors, so let's just do this. My opponent's land being Great Furnace is very good for me if my opponent doesn't have Lightning Bolt. Collector Oof might buy me the time that I need to get to something a little bit more interesting and impactful. There's a Spirit Guide for a Painter's Servant. That occurs. Opponent has given me the gift of blue as an Endurance. I believe I'm still interested in playing the Collector Oof here. I think I am going to grab a basic island. Like, leaving the basics in my deck is relatively important for Veteran Explorer, but I don't want to randomly get mooned off of Ancient Tomb in the next turn cycle. Now, a Blast may take this Collector Oof out of play, but my opponent will need another land, and they didn't have that land last turn. Fury's rough. So that takes out my Collector Oof. And I'll just be passing the turn and hoping that my opponent attacks with a Painter into this Endurance. Ooh. Yeah. So I think my plan is try to ambush Painter mid-combat with Endurance, and when that gets Pyroblasted, I get to Lightning Bolt the Painter on my actual turn. Nice. Here's my attempt at Endurance, and it just really feels like my opponent has a Pyroblast here. Just, that is my sole read based on how my opponent has played out this game. Very good. Now my opponent's low on resources, and I'm going to destroy the ever-loving shit out of this Painter. I do have to play a red land to do this. I can't play my fetch land this turn. That's okay. Play the Volk. Take that Painter out of play. I need a Brainstorm very badly, but I am probably top decking significantly better than my opponent right now. because like I am going to have, yeah, sure. You see Minsc and Boo last game? Eh. Oh, Uro is a fantastic draw here. My opponent has some ability to clear the graveyard in their deck. That's something that I'm going to have to keep in mind. Put a bonus land onto the battlefield here. Sacrifice the Uro. I don't think I play out Veteran Explorer. I don't want my opponent to Lightning Bolt Veteran Explorer and then get a bunch of lands. I'm so far ahead on other axes. I don't need to play this card here. This stays in my hand until I feel safer. Oh, that's a green sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could just green sun for Titania right now, and then I play a threat that's not pyroblastable this turn. That's probably significantly better than playing Uro. It's just very free to play around Pyroblast here for me. There's Titania. There's a Lightning Bolt. Good thing I played around that for my Veteran Explorer, though. Let's fetch. I'll still get another 5/3 Elemental. I have blue, blue, green, green. I don't really need to worry about Blood Moon right now, but I think this game is close enough to over that I will just pick up this land. Again, not going to play out Veteran Explorer. I have a threat that will be lethal in a few turns in play, as well as Uro chilling in my graveyard. Alright, Welder's strong. Endurance is a bit of a kick in the teeth for my opponent here. Let's Uro. I actually think I'm going to fetch prior to casting Uro, actually. That way, on the off chance that I end up endurancing myself and put that Elector Oof back into my deck. No putting lands into play. I think I'll just hold up the mana to hardcast and endurance here rather than playing out in EI. Okay. Alright, we did it. We won a match versus combo. And this round easily was the round where like we actually got to do our things because the turn counter went up high enough that I could just like cast like Ice Fangs into EIs and like do Titania nonsense. Alright, I've kept my opening hand here. I'm going to need a little bit of help from these brainstorms, and that's kind of been a thing with a lot of these opening hands, is like I don't have quite enough mana to get to where I want to go. I also don't quite have enough interaction. The brainstorms have been doing a lot of heavy lifting. I wonder if there should be more cantrips in the deck. I'm super soft to a wasteland right now. Anna? Yeah, that's fine. We are going to be playing against something in like the Mavericky ballpark. Maverick depths, that sort of stuff. I'm not really ready for a Minsc and Boo yet, so let's bury that card. I think I want to get a Veteran Explorer into play this turn. This lets me shuffle the bad card off the top of my library here. And I've got a Force of Will for the scariest things that can happen. Okay, yeah, so they're like some sort of Reclaimer depth sort of situation. I'm going to Force of Will that. I think pitching the Brainstorm here. We'll use... I can't cast EI. That's an error on my end. I should have kept Brainstorm. I will Sorcery Speed Ice Fang Coatl instead in an attempt to make my land drop. Never punished. Now I get to cast EI next turn in a slightly better set of circumstances. I don't really have things that answer a Merit Lodge, right? Like, I'm not in white for removal. Yeah. 0 or very close to it ways to actually answer Merit Lodge. Alright, let's see where this goes. Okay, the good news is I found land. So, like, Island to hand, and then Tarn to exile, play Tarn. These boys get to crash in. Not sure about Ice Fang. If my opponent just makes a Merit Lodge, I basically just lose to it, right? So if that's the case, fuck it, we going in hot. It is an Endurance. Opponent throwing their own stuff back into deck there. Alright, and they are opting to ramp us both. I am thankful for. Let's get Mountain Island here. That allows me to to cast a second Expressive Iteration. Oh, that's tough. I can get Force of Will to stop my opponent's next thing from coming down, but if I do, I'm kind of hellbent, and like not in a good spot, I don't think. I think I just need to keep the card that is going to attempt to kill my opponent. So let's put the Force of Will back in the deck, though. Exile Misty. Again, I've already played a land this turn. Let's go ahead and call that good. All right, the Reclaimer occurs. I need to find a Lightning Bolt for that. We got Expressive Iteration and or Uro to look. I'm at 16. Minsc and Boo doesn't quite do what I want here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lead on the EI. What does Greater Gargadon do? Greater Gargadon gives me +1 mana. Probably put the Brainstorm to exile and cast that. I think Gargadon does go to hand. Brainstorm to exile. Cast Brainstorm. One Minsc and Boo can go back for sure. I don't have a removal spell I can Green Sun for. I'm going to be casting another Brainstorm looking for a Lightning Bolt, I guess. Let's maybe assume that I hit a land drop in those 3 cards and throw back the island. That seems okay. Fetch. Grab a Trop. Brainstorm for a removal spell. Whiff. Not out of this yet. Let's throw back Minsc and Boo and 1 land. Suspend a Greater Gargadon. Sacrifice Veteran Explorer. This gives me more lands. And more importantly, shuffles my library here. Okay. Get Forest. I'm out of basics. So playing a Green Sun for another Gargadon doesn't really make sense. So let's Uro instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I could technically put a Greater Gargadon into play, but I don't actually think that's good. Okay, I've got a plan for next turn. This is the end of my turn for now. My plan for next turn has become attack with Greater Gargadon. Greater Gargadon mysteriously gets in for 9 points of damage, and then I fling Greater Gargadon with Minsc and Boo to kill my opponent. Not saying that's a good plan, but that's what the plan is. Yeah, you can have a mountain for purposes of prismatic ending. Okay, there is a Minsc and Boo. Sure. Alright. How aggressive is my opponent going to get here? If they swing all out at me... fuck, I wanted them to swing all out. I guess I will take that 4 damage. How am I going to get this Greater Gargadon in for these 9 points of damage? Unsure. But I sure did do a lot of things. Alright, I lose my Uro to that Endurance. Sounds good. Lots of blockers in the way here. Can I just beat my opponent with Titania? I can probably just beat my opponent with Titania, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. Oh, I fucked up. I was supposed to fetch first. Well, I guess I end up with the same number of elementals. I just end up down 1 land here for that decision. Alright, fetch. Make an elemental. 4 mana. Minsc and Boo. Make a hamster. And I think we're going kind of all in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to hold priority here. Alright. At this point, I've sacrificed all of my lands to Greater Gargadon. I will remove all the time counters from that. Cast Greater Gargadon. Now, I have to decide whether or not I'm killing Minsc and Boo or Elvish Reclaimer here. I guess I can attack Minsc and Boo with I can attack my opponent with Greater Gargadon first. Because if they don't block, they're just dead. Yeah, so I will force a removal spell on one of their creatures this way. Alright, we have gotten in the way of an Endurance here. And now, let's sacrifice a creature. My opponent can draw 4 cards with Minsc and Boo if I let them keep Minsc and Boo. Opponent probably doesn't have a Tabernacle in game 1. So I think I'm sacrificing an Elemental to kill Minsc and Boo, so the draw 4 isn't a thing. If I get tabernacled and I'm wrong here, so be it. Oh, buddy. Alright, so the negative experiences in the first 3 rounds are being offset by these slower games in the later rounds, where I am absolutely popping off. I can't stop a Merit Lodge. I can chump block it for a few turns, but I can't stop it once it's in play, and I can't interact with lands. I don't have any Blood Moons, I don't have any Wastelands. I probably need Force of Wills to stop my opponent's things from resolving. So that means I have 5 cards that I can look at to board in. The whole Veteran Explorer Titania thing is one of the stronger things I can do to go wide of my opponent's individually strong creatures, so I don't think I can cut any of that. Fable has kind of felt like the odd man out here. That's going to get me my Fury. And it's hard from here. I want bolts to kill early game Elvish Reclaimers, even though they're kind of dead later on. I want Minsc and Boo as the value creature, as the value permanent that it is. I want Uro as the value permanent it is, and the same is true for EI. But I think I need these 4 cards, so that probably means maybe doing something that looks like this. I think EI is much more powerful than something like Icefang Coatl, but I just think I need the raw flying body. I think this is a keep. It's not doing anything powerful quickly, but I can answer a turn 1 on the play Elvish Reclaimer, which I think matters a lot. Hey, it does. Alright, cool. I don't really want to get Wastelanded. But if I fetch Basic Mountain, I can't Brainstorm and fetch next turn, and I also can't Icefang Coatl next turn. So I do think this does have to be a Volcanic Island. Goodbye, Elvish Reclaimer. Okay. I have bought myself a little bit of time here. I believe that I will just take the redraw of Icefang Coatl this turn and just pass the turn here. That also leaves up Brainstorm for if my opponent plays something like a Knight of the Reliquary that I feel like I want to try to answer while it's on the stack. 2 mana, end of turn. That is a crop rotation. I think I would Force of Will this. It puts my opponent down a land. Well, they kind of get one back, you know. Alright, no dice. I'm keeping all of these cards. Keep Minsc and Boo in case I need to pitch something to Endurance. Put back, like, 1 land and hide the Fury, I guess. Alright, my opponent's picked up a Plateau and a Stage. My opponent has a Dark Depths, they make a Merit Lodge, and I can't realistically beat that. Like, I have 2 turns worth of chump blocks, but that kind of eats up my mana. Alright, there is a Knight. Oh, fuck. Yeah. We talked about this. The Knight is very conveniently a 4/4. Kept the wrong land, apparently. My play probably is pitch Gargadon, keep Minsc and Boo, 4 damage the Knight and call it a turn. I don't get to play Icefang in this turn since I didn't keep Island. F. Not technically dead, but I think I've basically lost to that. It's just so hard for me to keep playing a flying blocker every turn while dealing 20 to my opponent. I think given that, I'm just going to save my clock because I am down 6 minutes and just concede here. And let's see if I want to do anything differently for the game where I'm on the play. I don't really think so. Like, I can mess with the numbers on these 4 cards right here. But, like, not having things like Brazen Borrowers or whatever, or white removal spells that can just answer a Merit Lodge is putting me at such a huge disadvantage here. Okay, totally fine and good with this hand. Again, it's a little awkward versus Wasteland, because this Misty Rainforest has to represent red mana so that I can answer my opponent's stuff. It's also kind of rough that I don't have a Dryad Arbor in this deck, but such is life. My opponent's white removal is also very good versus Veteran Explorer. Alright, my opponent gets to get ahead on mana here. And they're going to get further ahead on mana, picking up a Dryad Arbor, or Or sorry, they're gonna get a Elvish Reclaimer. I don't think I bolt my own Veteran Explorer this turn. It's tempting though. I want access to green no matter what, I think. Let's grab Taiga. The reason it's really risky to bolt my own Veteran Explorer here is because if I do that and my opponent has crop rotation for the second copy of this, I don't actually kill this card. And I think that card just needs to die no matter what here. And I can consider killing my own Veteran Explorer next turn to cast a large green sun. But I think saving it for my opponent's creatures is more important in the short term. Land drop. I go up to 4 mana if I Lightning Bolt my Veteran Explorer. I go to 5 mana, though, if my opponent blocks with an Endurance. Okay, sure. Okay, sorry, I had to get something from my door here. I will crash in with Veteran Explorer. Opponent goes to 17. I think I'm just passing my turn here. Going for an end of turn Ice Fang Coatl. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll go green-blue to play this Ice Fang. Hit another land drop. I don't think I can go for Lightning Bolt my Veteran Explorer right now, as good as that is in theory. Because like a Source of Plowshares would just effectively act as a counterspell. That would do pretty gross things to me. I don't think I attack with Ice Fang into Endurance here before it's Death Touchy. Although if my opponent flashes in Endurance, I could then Lightning Bolt my Veteran Explorer to turn it into a Death Toucher. My opponent would be tapped out. Okay, yeah. Send him. Okay, we're just getting in some points of damage. I think I Green Sun for another Ice Fang here. Got the Titania in hand. Or when I get a little bit more mana. Oh, nice. I've got Titania next turn. I've already made my land drop. No! That's okay. I still just have Titania this turn. Assuming I want to sacrifice one of these Ice Fang Coatls. Alright, attack with both. Opponent goes to 13. If I do Titania this turn, it's actually not that good, right? My opponent has open Karakas. So let's just chill. Not sure exactly what my opponent has in hand. They're not playing out sorcery speed creatures, so it might be like some partial combo pieces like a crop rotation, but they don't have the other piece yet. Oh, nothing was the answer. That is the concession, and we redeem this league. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up this league. Overall, this deck list probably gets a thumbs down from me. I think it's trying too hard, and I think it's trying to do too many things. So the Veteran Explorer Greater Gargadon stuff, like, when it works, is incredibly powerful and potent. But at the end of the day, like, is this better than just playing 8 mana dorks and accelerating into, like, powerful 3 and 4 drops? And I'm not sure that the answer is yes. If we compare this to the Applejack's deck that has Orcish Lumberjack, which can sacrifice a forest to make 3 green or red mana in any combination, like, that's something that can just play Titania or a large green sun on turn 2. And we don't really have that same ability here. So we're less good at being an all-in Minsc and Boo / Titania deck than that deck. And until we have a bunch of lands, we're not actually a very good Expressive Iteration deck. We don't have things like Baubles. We don't have a ton of cantrips that we can just play. So, like, Expressive Iteration as a turn 3 play in this deck is really medium. Like, most of the time we're hitting a land drop and drawing a card. We're not, like, going to be, like, digging deeper with a Ponder or deploying a threat like a Dragon Rage Channeler. So, at the end of the day, this deck is probably just trying to get value too hard and, like, not be dedicated enough to the ramp package. So for example, like, if we have, you know, a Noble Hierarch and a Dryad Arbor in this deck list, we get significantly better at just naturally ramping to these cards. I'm not sure how much the blue really added to this deck list. And in those final 2 rounds where we played against fair stuff, like, the Expressive Iterations, when we had time to set them up, were really good. But I think if you're going to have like a Ghost of a Chance versus the combo deck lists, I think the plan is like go faster and kill them, and then have a dedicated sideboard that tries to beat combo in some capacity. So I'm not sure how much I like the blue card. I think Fable of the Mirrorbreaker was also relatively light on targets to copy, and like because of that, I ended up boarding that out in a lot of the rounds. That's maybe an indication that this shouldn't have been in the starting deck list anyway. I do think this deck was very fun to play in the last 2 rounds, but against the combo decks, and that depending on how you categorize the last round, like Merit Lodge combo, like you might categorize that as a combo, but it's kind of a mid-range deck with a combo finish. But I don't feel like I had answers to a lot of stuff in this deck. And although we didn't run into the initiative deck, I very much felt like I had to have these cards in there because we're so bad at answering any creature that's larger than about a 3/3. So I don't think this build of Nic Fit was particularly competitive, but I hope I've given you all some entertaining rounds and some good thoughts. If you have any thoughts about the deck building, please go ahead and throw them in the comments. I'll take a look, and I'm sure the donor would love to see, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day. See ya!